Okay, so I've spent a little more time texturing this barrel now, and all I really did though is I came through and applied some dirt filters. I just have some fill layers here with some high roughness and a dark color. And then I applied the dust dirty smart filter to this one, the ground dirt, and then the dirt ground, then the dirt splash. And I didn't write this one down, but I believe this is just some kind of dust filter. And I did play around with them a bit. Like the ground dirt, I believe I went to the mask editor here. And I played with texture too. I set to invert, so if I turn off that invert, it should update here and see how it's all solid now. You want to invert that texture too, so it eats away at this and makes it a bit more believable. Other than that, I just got some nice crevice dirt. I really just dirtied the thing up. I made sure I checked normal on the wood rough to add some extra normal detail for the wood. I did try the displacement, but that really didn't do anything helpful. Did set the shader quality to high. Trying to remember if there's anything else worthwhile I did though. I don't really think so. I think it's honestly pretty simple right now, but I am pretty pleased with it still. I believe the only thing I did was, I'm not sure how noticeable it is, even if you look right at it, but I did try to take these bands and I added, like you can sort of tell in some places. It's almost hard to tell when you're just looking at it, but like you can sort of see it there, but I added some noise. That's the thing I actually did. I added noise to these bands here to try to shake them up a little bit. So here in Blender, all I did was I came to the metal bands. I added these displace modifiers with our cloud noise texture. I think if I turn these off and on, you can see how if I turn them off, these get pretty straight and tight. If I turn them on, and they get broken up a bit. You can play with that more and more, but I thought this just gave it a slightly more realistic, like hammered and forced on look. And so I'm pretty pleased with that. That's really the only changes I made. And so now I think if you've got this textured up nicely, I mean, it really doesn't take much to get a good looking wood barrel and some metal here inside substance. You could spend a little more time and get something fancier going on here, but I'm just gonna roll with this for now. So I'm gonna go to export textures. I'm just gonna make sure I export these using my Unreal config PNG 8 bits with dithering, and I'll let that run. And I was planning on hand making a lot of LODs inside a blender, and I did actually. I made 5, but it was a bit tricky. They weren't the greatest LODs, and honestly, I kinda had better success just letting Unreal use their auto LOD generation. So I think that's what we're going to use here for the final version. Just going to count on Unreal's LOD generation. Alright, so I am going to duplicate my low poly collection. I'm going to rename it UE4. Oh yeah, I guess I still have it here. All my barrel LODs and... Yep, I know it kind of looks like a mess there, but they were pretty okay. I might just turn these off actually. Not sure I want to delete those. I'm going to keep those for now. Just in case I ever want to go back, look at them. Now, how'd I do that? What's this? Okay. Wait, I need that one to go back. Yep, just a little derpy here. Nothing too terrible. Alright. So we've got this, and if you had followed me exactly, you'd end up with 234,000 triangles, which is kind of a lot. And it's sort of nice for the texturing, but I'm thinking that for the actual in-game LOD 0, I want to keep the bevel modifier with 2 segments because I'm actually kind of using that to hold the silhouette of the mesh right now. Like if we turn the bevel modifier down but keep the subdivisions, it's going to shrink the mesh and it will mess with our UVs. It'll be not good. That's the point. So if we were to reduce this bevel modifier even down to 1, we don't have to get rid of it entirely. We would also have to get rid of the subdivision entirely. But I don't really want to do that for our LOD 0. I want that to be pretty high poly and really good looking. But I don't think we need quite the amount of detail for that, oh yeah, there's no modifiers on the nails that subdivision 2 is giving us. It's nice to get that normal information maybe, and like the texture, but yeah, and it'll change the mesh's profile like a little bit. You don't have to do this if you don't want. I just think this is like a reasonable performance gain because just turning our subdivisions down from 2 to 1 brings our triangle count for LOD 0 down to 63,000, which is pretty big. And I did do some performance testing in Unreal. Like I spammed the editor full of this barrel. I probably had some like 50 or 100 on my screen at once, and there wasn't any kind of like performance drop or anything, even in the editor. So And realistically, like in-game, unless you're doing something weird, it's honestly fine, unlike modern hardware, to have reasonable or reasonably high poly meshes. You don't need to try to make everything like a basic geometric shape like you did 10 years ago. Those days are behind us. Now we can worry much more about making things that look really good. So I'm going to go ahead and export this out. I don't need to do any fancy Unreal FBX exporting stuff since I'm going to let Unreal generate all that. So I'm just going to export it as barrel LOD 0. Not that I need to, but I just am going to. You can call it whatever you want. So now I'm going to drag this in. Drag. Okay. Alright, here it is. And the default settings should be fine. Or, no, actually, that you want to check combined mesh, actually. Like, I have that enabled, but I'm going to force delete this barrel real quick. But you do want to make sure if you don't have combined meshes, because right now, this is like, how many objects is this? 48. So this is like 48 objects, and that is not what we want. If you don't check combined meshes, it'll import 48 different static meshes into Unreal. And that is completely not what we want at all. We want one barrel. And it's going to complain about smoothing groups. That really doesn't matter. So I'm going to open this up, just have a look at it. And we need to set its LOD group to something. I'm going to set it to high detail. You can set it to something else if you want, but high detail's pretty good. You can use that for most things, honestly. And it'll generate, I believe, well, we should have 6 LOD levels, I think. It'll generate 5 extra. Yeah, so we have LOD 0 to LOD 5, so 6. And you can see LOD 0 has 60,000, 130, 215, and then down to 4, and then down to 2. And like, you can see Unreal has really messed this up. But Unreal's only going to use this LOD if the barrel's crazy far away. Like, you see, even from this distance, you can't tell. If we put on LOD 0, it's not even using 5 yet, it's using 4. Here's where it's using 5. And you can't tell. You just can't. You're not gonna see. That's all messed up at that distance. And we'll get a material on this thing here now. So, barrel underscore matte. And we will grab our textures. Textures. Just gonna grab these and bring them in. Alright. Open our material. Drag in the textures. Nope, I want that one down there. Up there. Right here. Alright, put that one in there. And that one in there. And the blue. Oh yeah, the blue is metallic. Forget for a second. Blue is metallic. Green is roughness. Red is ambient occlusion for this map. This is a combo map. This is our normal map. This is our color map. Alright, so I'm gonna apply and save that. And I'm going to apply this material here. Does it really need to rebuild them all again? I don't know, I guess. Alright, but you can see here's our barrel. It looks fine. It looks more than fine. It looks pretty good. This is a pretty good looking barrel right now. Alright. And if I back up, you can see it's transitioning from 3 to 2. You can't really tell. 1 to 2, 1 to 0. It's pretty smooth. And 3 to 4. Can't tell. Then 4 to 5. And 5, if you remember, is that really messed up one. But you can't tell at all that it's all messed up from the distance Unreal uses. So for its purpose, it's pretty perfect. Alright, well, I'm going to close these out. And I'm going to bring in the barrel and drag it up. We could change its like origin or pivot point maybe, so it's like the bottom if we wanted. Just gonna duplicate it around. Oh no, not fat. I wanted to make a big barrel. Yes. A big boy barrel. This one is gonna be like a smaller barrel. So right now the barrel's a little big. Maybe one size. No, I want it to be one size bigger. Okay, so we have a lot of barrels now. And I should rebake the lighting, but I'm just gonna run with it like this. You can see it looks pretty good at any of these sizes. Even the big barrel looks pretty good. And it's pretty dark, so we can't actually see detail for it up close. But, yeah. It would look good up close if we could get up close with our character. It's a nice barrel. That's for sure. Maybe we could get rid of that shine, like reflection. Yeah, maybe that's a bit too smooth. Maybe I should change then the material. Something on those metal strips is too smooth. That black dirt. Actually, is that on the dark steel itself? It is. Yeah, it's something in here. Don't think it's the roughness grunge. Is it the scratches? What is it? Is it actually like part of the base? It is part of the base. Hmm. Yeah, perhaps this just needs to come up a bit. Hmm. System seems to be chugging just a hair in substance. Alright, that's fine now. It can get temperamental, but yeah. That's our barrel in substance, in Unreal, in Blender. It's good. I'm pretty happy. I think our geometry count definitely is not too high. You could definitely get away with using this in a game. And I think even if we change like our texture resolution here in Substance down to 2K, it'll still look really good. Like, we don't need 4K resolution. We could totally lower it and it'd be fine. And even our barrel now, like, if you want it to be lower, okay, maybe like 1K, it looks kind of rubbish. At least the metal, like that's not very good. So maybe like 2K. 2K, our texture still looks really good. 1K, you'll need to rework it just a bit. But, you know, if like you're less about aesthetic and more about, you know, performance and keeping your uh, geometry as low as possible, you could easily come in and you could just start deleting all this stuff inside. That would be an easy way to save. You could probably cut the triangle count by, 30%, just doing that on the straps, on everything. You could also just reduce like the smooth modifier, or you could crease the edges instead of using this bevel modifier. Then it would retain its shape, and you wouldn't need all this geometry, but you'd keep the silhouette. Like, it's not going to look as nice, and it won't really handle lighting as well, but you will keep the silhouette, and you will reduce your geometry requirements. But really, it just comes down to what kind of game, what kind of project, what kind of performance standards has everyone decided on? What's your budget? And I mean like your geometry budget, your polygon budget, whatever the budget. Maybe it's vertices, faces, triangles, all of the above. Maybe you have like a UV map fill ratio. Like, you gotta meet like any model that has less than 70% UV utilization's no good. You know, different games, different studios will be different, but I think you can probably adapt this pretty easily for whatever you're working on, especially if you're working on like a small personal project, a community project, just a resume piece, whatever. I think the only thing I would kind of want to add is like a keg hole. Maybe make like some variations and like play with the noise. Like, you could play with this for a good little bit, trying to get it perfect. Could come in and try to make like a little keg hole or something. Maybe just like really optimistic here, but you know, just come in and like inset this face. Like, obviously you're gonna need to, like, build, like, support geometry and stuff so this doesn't eat itself. Like, it's gonna be rough. But you can do it. Especially if you start, like, turning off your subdivision. See, like, it's really that subdivision that's making everything eat itself. You're going to need a lot of support geometry in here if you build a hole and you keep that subdivision on to keep it from eating itself. That's that's like the only thing. Be careful of the subdivision. Just averaging everything out isn't always what you want, basically. But yeah. I guess closing thoughts on the barrel. I'm pretty pleased with it. I basically built this barrel like 12 or 15 times over, just trying different techniques out in the course of this. But, you know, I learned some stuff. I tried a bunch of different techniques here. And I'm pretty happy with how it came out, honestly. It's pretty good. Highly adaptable. Very efficient. I would have liked it to be lower geometry. And I could get it there if I really wanted to, but I'm going to leave it like it is for now, because I think in its current state, it's the most flexible. I can open it, I can break it apart, I can optimize it, I can cut out the back faces, I can put holes in it, I can do whatever I want to it from this point. All that other stuff's just extra. So I guess this is gonna be it. Have a good one.